It's a new brewery for the channel. This is St. Mars of the Desert and it's called Boom Boom. It's a Riwaka Koelship IPA. More about that in a minute, but keep on watching to find out if this beer is any good. Welcome back to Rocker's Beer Review. Today we're going to be reviewing this beer. It's an interesting looking can art. This is by St. Mars of the Desert, an interesting name for a brewery. They're based in Sheffield. This is called Boom Boom, and it's a Boom Boom with Riwaka. I've seen other Boom Booms, I think. So I think it's just, a sort of sub name. But this is a Koelship IPA, 6.5%. Now, Koelship IPA, never heard of that before. I did a quick look it up. And basically, it's the way that they brew in this beer, and that's why they call it Koelship. I'm not sure where the word Koelship comes from, but it's in terms of how the hopping, the brewing process, where they're trying to get more of the sort of fruit flavors out of the hop and less of that sort of big hoppiness. I'm not sure what that is. I mean, it's, they pretty much traditionally make New England style IPAs. I love the artwork. It's nice and simple, very eye-catching. I have drank one of these beers before, not this beer, but I've drank another St. Mars of the Desert beer before. I did review it on the channel, but it was very good. This is a best before January 2022, 440 ml can, drink fresh as you would. And this is the last beer of my Father's Day beers, basically. So let's get this open into a glass, see what it's all about, see what a Koelship IPA is all about. Never had Koelship, so let's pour it and see if it makes any difference the way it looks, maybe the way it smells. Probably, I would have hoped it, the way it tastes. Give it a bit more of an aggressive pour there. Well, beer in a glass. Yeah, I mean, there's quite a lot of carbonation there. You can see at the bottom of the glass how it hugs the bottom of the glass. It's moved up. It's moving up quite quickly. It's a very orange-coloured beer, which, with the New Englands, usually, they're a bit more lighter, a bit more straw, a bit more custardy. 2 fingers, pretty compacted, just off white head, really. A slight sort of orange tinge to the head. But it looks pretty good in a glass, doesn't it? Let's see what it smells like. Yeah, I mean, it has that very... I mean, Riwaka is a New Zealand style, it's a New Zealand hop. And, if we're talking about Riwaka or Nelson Sauvin, you're still getting very similar sort of characteristics. You're getting that grape, you're getting those fresh green sort of fruits. And you're also getting a sort of, it's very sort of grassy and almost like a lemongrass that you would get in Thai cooking. Yeah, it's all those sort of fresh aromas. So you're not really getting, there's a bit of peach in there as well, but you're getting those real fresh sort of green fruits. You're not getting waves of pineapple. You're not even really getting, you get a bit of grapefruit in there, but you're not getting much in the way of mango and pineapple and those sort of fruit aromas. But let's see what it tastes like. Cheers, everyone. Yeah, it's very light and it's very refreshing. It is very sort of fruity, and I think it's obviously because I think the yeast. I think maybe the Koelship is a sort of yeast, because see what it says on there. It doesn't actually say. It just says it contains barley, wheat, and oats. And obviously, there's got to be some yeast in there as well. But you don't get that sort of New England style where it's very sort of almost to a creamy sort of level. It's got a very light body. There's a little subtleness of bitterness, but I think I'm getting that from those sort of gooseberry, grape, bit of lychee as well. That's the other flavour. And then you've got this sort of grapefruit and a little bit of pininess. It's I don't think it's what I would call a traditional New England style, even though, I mean, obviously we get New England styles using, Nelson Sauvin, for example, but it doesn't drink like that. It's very light. It's very, although the carbonation is low, it feels a lot thinner than a lot of New England style IPAs. And you're getting a real sort of sharp flavour, that sort of, and as I say, that it's the flavours of gooseberry, it's the flavours of maybe kiwi fruit, it's the flavours of melon and white grape and grapefruit. There's a sort of grapefruit on the back end that's quite sharp. There maybe is a little bit of passion fruit. Lychee is another thing that's very big in the flavours. It's very traditional in terms of it being a New Zealand sort of flavour. But it has this sort of, it's difficult to describe, but it's not the sort of first flavour you get. It's quite, if you think when you drink like a lager, for example, you get that sort of real sort of cutting sort of flavours, you know, that sort of texture on the throat, and it's very much like this. It's got that real sharpness of a lager, you know, that sort of maltiness of a German Pilsner, for example. And it does have that sort of element where the flavours stay in your mouth a lot more. You know, you get that sort of almost like that slight coating, that slight dry bitterness. But it's a funny one because it doesn't taste like a lager, but it has certain sort of mouthfeel characteristics of a lager. But it doesn't feel like a New England IPA. It doesn't have that sort of hoppy, you know, it doesn't have that hoppiness in it. It's a very clean sort of tasting beer. So I think, you know, it is something a bit different, but it's very nice. It's really refreshing. It's that sort of beer where, you know, usually with an IPA, you want to sort of, you don't want it really cold, but something like this, I think you do want it cold because you get that really sort of zestiness, really. It's an interesting beer, worth trying. I don't know if anyone else has a Koelship IPA. We've had beer with Riwaka before and it's been pretty damn good. I had a track that was really good, but that was much yellower and a lot softer. This isn't as soft, but it's really refreshing. Let's get some scores. Okay, the scores are in for Boom Boom. It's with Riwaka. It's a Koelship IPA, 6.5% from St. Mars of the Desert. I don't know what that name means. St. Mars of the Desert, I'm not quite sure. But it's a very interesting beer. It's quite different than a lot of beers we've had. It's a sort of New England style, but it's got some real different characteristics. But let's go through the scores. So aroma first. Well, it's got a very fresh, green fruited aroma. You know, you've got the grape, you've got the melon, you've got the lychee, you've got gooseberry, you've got those sort, and you've got a bit of grapefruit in there. It's very much that New Zealand style. You know straight away there's a New Zealand hop in there somewhere. It's very distinctive. It's those sort of hops. They're appearing a lot more in a lot of beers. Usually Nelson Sauvin is the sort of big one in terms of New Zealand, but Riwaka is another one that's being used more and more. So it smells pretty good. It's very fresh, and I'm giving it 13 for aroma. Appearance wise, well, a little bit disappointing. It's a sort of orangey colour and it's got a haze to it, but it's not as, I don't know, it's just not as inviting as a lot of other New England. It doesn't look thick, and it isn't thick in terms of its body. It's quite light. It's almost like a pale ale in terms of its appearance. So I'm giving it 7. Flavour wise, the difficulty to rate this one in terms of its flavour is that it tastes unlike a lot of other beers. There is a lot of, the body of it and the characteristics is like a craft lager. It's like a sort of, it's got a very sort of sharp cutting sort of mouthfeel, really. It goes down and it has that big refreshment hit that you get when you drink a lager. I wouldn't say it's masses of carbonation, but if you think of some of the sort of craft lagers, I think of especially like an unfiltered lager like the Big Foam by Don Zocco, which is a really good lager. It's that sort of characteristics when you drink it. But then you're getting all this fruit, and it's unlike the New England style IPAs that we've had, where they can be quite hoppy, a little bit sort of, you know, the body's quite, you know, is a medium to thick body. Yeah, there's not much carbonation when you drink, when you when it's sitting in your mouth, really. It feels sort of low levels, but it's very light. It's almost too light, but it makes it really refreshing and much more drinkable than your sort of normal New England style IPAs that I think can, if you have too many of them, they can be a little bit too chewy, a little bit too hoppy, really. And although this is hoppy, it's all dialed back to make it a much more fresher and refreshing beer. So flavour, let's go to the score. Well, it's difficult because it's difficult to compare this with anything else that I've had. The flavours are definitely there. They're very much a green fruit. They're very sort of New Zealand-esque. The grape, like the aromas, you got grape, you got gooseberry, you got lychee. And then there's a sort of grapefruit, a slight pininess, but very slight. But it's a refreshing beer. As I said, it's almost like a lager mixed with a New England IPA, which shouldn't work, but it does work here. It's very zesty and refreshing. So I'm giving it 34 for flavour. I'd like to try more of this sort of style because it's quite different. Value for money, well, I don't know the price of this because it was a gift. I would be, these usually come in around about £4.5. So I'm giving it an 8. I think it's pretty good value. It's a 6.5%. It's something different. I think it's good. So 8 for value. In my overall experience, well, I've drank it. It's very easy drinking. It's light, it's refreshing. The more, even down to this level, I'm thinking it's like almost like a fruitier lager. But it doesn't get to the sort of, it's not as fizzy, I don't think. It's like a lager that had been sitting for a little bit, but the flavours are definitely there. It's a perfect drink for the summer. In the moment, I'm drinking a lot of, I'm drinking more lager in the last sort of few weeks than I've done all year. I went right off lager, so I was getting into my New Englands, my pales, even sours, and I found lager a little bit bland, a bit tasteless, but the weather's got hot, been watching the football, and I've got back into lager. And to be honest, this is almost like it is a hybrid of a lager and a New England style, which shouldn't really work, but does work really well. So if you like your beers with plenty of fruit and plenty of flavour, but you don't want it too hoppy and too heavy, you want it light, you want that zestiness, you want that sort of refreshment that you get from lager, this is a really good drink. So overall, I'm giving it 14 for my overall experience. As I said, I think we need to try more of these Koelship IPAs. It's a different style of brewing. Anyone knows what that sort of can explain it better? I'm sure I can go off and I can research it and I can probably tell you, but I like to, review these beers to some extent a bit blind. So I don't want to sort of go into too much detail about what that is. But all I know is that the Koelship IPA is a slightly different way of extracting that hop. I'm not a brewer, I'm not an expert on this. But I know there's people out there that are and will know more about it. I've never seen the words Koelship IPA ever, so I don't know. Is it something that other breweries do as well, or is it just something that's unique to St. Mars of the Desert? I don't know. So we give that 14 for overall, and we top the scores up. We get 76. So it's a recommended beer. Let me know what you think if you've ever had this before. St. Mars of the Desert, they're quite distinctive. They usually have this sort of cartoony style. They're quite distinctive when you see them on the shelves. I don't know what it is about my local bottle shop seems to do more of these. And I have seen something, I'm sure it's even called Boom Boom, but it's got Azaka and something else in it. And Azaka's my sort of hop of the moment, really. I really like the Azaka hop, so I will try and find that one. But if anyone's had anything else by these, know more about the brewery, know about what Koelship is, let me know in the comments. Because I'm sure if I don't, I really like to know, but I'm sure a lot of my other viewers really want to know as well. So, 76, recommended beer. It's a White Snake beer. I'd like to slide it in slow and easy, but let's face it, I've drank it. It's a very easy drinking beer. Good one for the summer. And until the next one, keep on rocking.